All right, showtime. Hi, folks. In 2019, according to statistic.com, 13.2% of the US population is disabled. Now, according to my math, since there's currently 331.5 million people in our country today, that comes to roughly 43.75 million people that are disabled today in our country. That being said, if you compare that to the Social Security Administration statistics related to the total percentage of Social Security expenditures that are paid towards Social Security disability benefits, which is 13.1%, and you divide that by the average Social Security disability benefit amount paid out per year, which is $15,320, it comes to roughly 9 million people that are collecting Social Security disability benefits at the moment. That means that roughly 80% of the people that are disabled in the US are currently not collecting Social Security disability benefits right now. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of good reasons why this is the situation, but it definitely makes one think that there's a need to educate a lot of people about these benefits. And that's exactly what we intend to do on this webinar today. My name is Brian Dougherty of PLC Financial Solutions and PhillyLabor.com, and I'm your host for today's webinar, along with my brother, Joe Dougherty, the Executive Director of the Injured Workers Advocacy Program and Principal of PhillyLabor.com, the Philadelphia Union Community's online media hub, and host of the Labor Show on 1210 AM Talk Radio. How you doing today, Joe Doc?
I'm doing good, Brian. Glad to be here, man.
Super excited. I tell you, I'm so excited about doing this webinar today, especially with the union community, because it's been such a long time coming. And what even has me more excited about it is our topics for our workshop today, which is understanding Social Security disability and an intro to Medicare. Also, as usual, we're here with my beautiful partner in business and life, Rachel Dougherty. Say hi, Rachel. And she's going to be our moderator for it, as always. Now, because we always aim to please on our webinars, and we also have an extra special co-host for us on it, as always. He's the Philadelphia area's foremost expert in Social Security disability from Philadelphia's top Social Security disability and workers' compensation law firm, Lehocky, attorney at law, Tom Giordano. How are you doing tonight, Tom?
You know what, Brian? I'm doing great. What an introduction. What energy. I mean, yeah. I actually think your brother here has to be worried. I think you're going to be the radio host of the future, man.
That's
right. And Rachel, hello. It's a pleasure to be on, and I'm really looking forward to educating the group here tonight.
Well, I have to tell you, I like to agree with you, Tom, but Joe's doing this like 5 days a week, 3 shows a day. I wouldn't even have a voice. This man was born to talk. Absolutely.
He's the best.
Well, I'll tell you what, I just want to say one thing. One thing people should understand too, the seminar is called Understanding Social Security Disability and an Intro to Medicare, but make no mistake about it, it's retirement and early retirement benefits, because of the amount of information that people are going to learn that they don't know. It's a game changer, and obviously we're excited about it, and that's no joke.
Well, absolutely, because anybody who knows anything about Social Security disability and Medicare is that they absolutely are both retirement and pre-retirement benefits. And I think, Tom, you're going to drive that home a little today too, because I think that's one of the things we really want to enlighten people about, right?
Yeah. I want to do some myth busting, as we like to call it. I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation out there about what disability is and what it isn't. And my goal tonight is for all 100+ people who are listening in, and anybody who listens to this afterwards, that they understand what their rights are, because that's what this is all about, right? Just to have an option, knowing what your rights are. And I think we're going to do a pretty good job tonight of letting people know what they can expect if they're thinking about disability, or maybe people aren't even sure about disability, and maybe we're going to make it a little easier for them to think about applying.
Absolutely. If we can achieve that, we've achieved everything. We've certainly met our goal. Before we get started, though, let's take care of some general housekeeping first. If the screen is not big enough for you, or what you have to do is just move your mouse or your cursor around, and you'll see at the top there's a drop down called View Options, and you click on that. There'll be a little drop down with it, and then you'll see how you can increase the size of your screen. So if any of the slides aren't big enough for you to be able to see the details on, you can do that. Also, you'll see that there are two boxes at the bottom of your screen. One's called Chat. It's for your comments, and another's called Q&A, and that's for your questions. Please use them accordingly, and Rachel will respond to them in kind. Also, I'm sure that there are many of you guys who are going to have questions about the material that we covered today. But since we have a good bit of material to cover and only an hour or so to cover it, I'm going to ask you to put your comments and questions in those boxes below. And at the end, we're going to be staying for some extra time to cover as many of them as possible. However, if we don't cover yours, we'd be happy to answer it by either email or even a 15-minute Q&A phone call to schedule for another time. And at the end, we're going to be giving our information for you to do that. So next thing, this webinar is being recorded, and it will be sent to everyone who is attending tonight. So don't worry about missing anything. You're going to be able to check it all out again at your convenience. Also, because we want to make sure that you're all paying attention, and because we'd like you to have some fun as well, before we answer any questions tonight, we're going to have a 7-question quiz for you at the end. And the first person to answer each question right inside the comment box will win a $10 gift card to the store of their choice. And you're going to tell us at the end what store you want that to be. And we're going to send it. We try to send them by email. So make sure you have a notebook handy and to jot down some brief notes related to some bullet points that I'm going to point out as we go along. So I'm going to point out subtly those bullet points for you to jot down. Finally, it's my obligation as a financial advisor and a fiduciary to inform you of our RIA's disclaimer statement, which is that our investment advisory services are offered through Fusion Capital Management, an SEC registered investment advisor, and we only transact business in states where we are properly registered or are excluded or exempted from registration requirements. Now, SEC registration is not an endorsement of our firm by the commission and does not mean that our advisors have attained a specific level of skill or ability. And most importantly, all investment strategies have the potential for profit and loss. So now that we got that, got through that, I have one for you guys as always. So a robber walks up to an IRA agent in the park, points a gun at him and says, "Give me all your money." The IRS agent says, you can't rob me. I'm an IRS agent. Robber says, "Well, in that case, give me all my money." All right.
All right, thanks, ladies and gentlemen.
I'll keep with the day job. All right, so let's get started. So when it comes to Social Security disability, let's just start with a little bit of general information related to it. First, disability benefits were added to the Social Security program in 1956 under President Dwight D. Eisenhower. That's a bullet point. It was not a part of the original Social Security Act in 1935. Second, the purpose of Social Security disability benefits is to provide monthly benefits for people who are unable to work or perform substantial gainful activity, also known as SGA to the Social Security Administration. SGA is defined as making less than $1,310 a month if you're not blind, and less than $2,190 if you are blind. Also, if you're on a trial work period with the Social Security Administration, it's $940 a month or less. Also, if you'd like to have an idea how much your Social Security benefits would be if you were approved to receive Social Security SSDI today, an estimate of what your Social Security disability benefit amount will be in any given year can be found on your Social Security statement. Now let's back up just a minute before we go over that. Tom, can you tell us more about the how the SSA defines substantial gainful activity and how people are judged when it comes to it?
Yeah, very, very important, Brian. And if I can we backtrack even a second before that?
Sure.
I want the audience to understand something. If you've worked and if you've paid taxes, which 99% of us have, right? 6.2% of all of our paychecks have gone into the Social Security Trust Fund. You haven't asked them to take that money. They just take it. They call that FICA tax. If you look on your pay stub, you'll see FICA tax and how much that is every week or bi-weekly, however you get paid. That's going to Social Security. So why I'm saying that, why I'm leading with that, is I want this audience to understand that they've paid into this program. So if anybody, and I'm really looking at my union members, because I sometimes hear this in the union meetings and I don't like it. It's the only thing I don't like. It's not a handout. You paid into it. So let's let everybody understand that they've paid into the system. So now, understanding that they've paid into the system for retirement and disability benefits, let's talk about when you can apply.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, right. That's the move, right? Let's talk about how we can get it. If you're out of work because of any medical condition whatsoever, and I'm talking any medical condition, and for my people who perform physical work that are on this webinar right now, I'm talking back pain, neck pain, shoulder, hand, knee, hip pain, headaches, carpal tunnel. Let's talk about heart disease, diabetes, any medical condition that's affecting your ability to work. If it makes you stop working, or if you have to work, you can't work as much as you used to, and now you're making less than 13. And believe it or not, Brian, they just upped this in 2022. So we got to update our slide because we're about 19 days into the new year, right?
Right.
So now it's $1,350 a month. So if you're earning less than $1,350 a month and you're out of work, you can apply for disability. That's number one. So you're out of work or you're earning less than $1,350. Number two, you have severe medical impairments. Well, I just named a few, but I can name 100 more. Let's say you have a disease. Maybe you have cancer. Maybe you have lupus. Maybe you have seizures. Maybe you have chronic pain, memory loss, depression, anxiety. Whatever is keeping you from work, that makes you eligible. And if you can't perform the work you have done in the past, okay, so let's use, like your brother's here, let's use iron worker. Okay, let's say we have an iron worker who's 53 years old, and because of his physical problems or maybe his mental problems, he can't be an iron worker anymore. That individual should apply for Social Security disability. Let's say we have someone on this call who's a 52-year-old secretary, legal secretary, and has headaches and carpal tunnel because of the typing. Can't do that job anymore. Apply for Social Security disability. If I get anything through to this group tonight, it's if you have any medical conditions that's making it difficult or impossible for you to work, Social Security disability is there for you.
Autoimmune disease.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to repeat a few things because we're going to get a little granular.
Sure.
But obviously making that emphasis, I mean, it's coming from you, especially just people really, we're going to drive that home, folks, quite a bit. Although we're going to get a little granular with how everything that Tom just mentioned actually happens. And let's just, for a second, this, I think people need to understand. They want to know, how much am I going to get?
Yep.
How much can I make? How much can I get? And this is really important because certainly has to do when you compare it to retirement benefits, right? It's really substantial. So you can see here on the left side in the blue where it says your disability. This is an example Social Security statement. On your Social Security statement, it will show you an estimate of what your benefits would be if you became disabled today. Now, in this one, and then right across from that, it has the amount, which in this situation is what? $1,889, right?
That's right.
Disability. Talk a little about that, Tom.
Sure. So Brian, for a lot of people who are maybe a little older on this call, they'll recall, and I get them as well, that they used to send these statements to our house via US mail. We would get it right around our birthday, maybe a couple of months before. They don't do that anymore because it costs too much money. So if anybody on this webinar wants to know how much they would receive in disability, the easiest way to find out is to log on to www.ssa.gov. So that's the Social Security Administration.gov, and click on My Social Security tab. And then you can open up your earnings statement. You have to answer a few personal questions because obviously it's very secure. And you'll pull this up. Now, this is all based upon what you've paid in. So if you've worked for the last 30 years and you've made a nice living and you've paid in a lot of money to Social Security, your benefit's going to be higher and higher. So $1,800 is a good number, but I've seen people who can have $3,200, $3,400, $3,500 a month in disability benefits. And here's something I want to really hammer home for any of our union brothers and sisters on this call. If you retire or you stop working because of a disability and you apply for Social Security disability, you will receive this benefit in addition to your pension. There will be no reduction. There will be no offset. This is in addition to your pension. And I'm seeing pop up, they want to know what that website is again, Rachel. I'll repeat it. It's www.ssa.gov, G-O-V. And you're going to click on, and thank you, Fran, for doing that. You're going to click on the My Social Security tab, and you'll be able to pull up your statement after you answer a few personal questions.
Tom, one of the things I wanted to, the last time we did this webinar, you pointed out that I thought was really, really important for people to understand is if you look at your retirement benefit on this, it's saying $1,915. And now you have to wait until your full retirement age,
Yep.
According to this, which is for most people around 66.
Yep, 67, yep.
Right, 66 in between 2 and 10 months.
Yep.
Right. But now they can, if they say with it, like you talk about a guy in the trades, he's been at it a long time, he's hurt, he's trying to push back, he's 60 years old, and his age 62 benefit to retire is only $1,344. You could literally get a Social Security benefit that's almost identical, and actually it would be identical. The only reason this is increased is because there's estimates of years in there, and this is if it happened today. So literally within a few dollars of what you could be at your full retirement age, we could maybe get that benefit at 60 years old or 58 or early.
Brian, that is such a good point, and that's why we're a good team, man. Because I skipped over that point. So
when you brought it up last time, I never forgot it.
Yeah. I mean, think about this, okay? A lot of people, they don't know about disability. So what their plan is in their head is, I'm going to work until I'm 62, and I'm going to get out and get my early retirement from Social Security. I'm going to just do my best with all my pain and all my problems to try to make it to 62. What I'm going to tell you is, you don't have to wait until you're 62. If your medical conditions are severe enough, you can go out at 42 and get what you would be entitled to, like you said, at 66. I mean, in some cases now, what we see, and again, I don't want this to just be about our union brothers and sisters, but I'm going to go back to that for a minute. We have seen a lot of our union, friends try to wait until 62, but you can go out at 50 and you can get a 12, actually it's a 16-year advance on your full retirement if you're found disabled. So, I understand the rationale by trying to wait until 62, but if you physically or mentally, you just can't do that job anymore, apply for disability, get what you're going to get. You can get your 67 or your full retirement much earlier. Great.
Not to mention Medicare, which we're going to talk about, which could kick in a couple of years later. So we're going to talk all about that, folks. So let's jump a little bit in. Now let's take a look at the guidelines for eligibility for both SSDI and supplemental security income, otherwise known as SSI. And you see that a lot. First, the work history qualifications have both age and duration tests, which we're going to get a little more granular with in a minute, but not get too heavily into it. I know I got a little too heavily into this stuff last time, Tom, and I get that. I just want people to get a little bit more knowledge on where these things come from, and that the Social Security Administration isn't just making these things up, shooting from the hip.
Yep.
Secondly, you must be under full retirement age and currently age 66 for most people. Although there are definitely some exceptions when it comes to it. Third, your condition must be considered a Social Security defined disability. We're going to take a much deeper dive into that as well. And Tom has a few things to say about that as well. But if you go on their website, you talk about it, that's kind of the essence of what they express to people. And finally, you must have filed an application. This seems so basic, but the application process can be fairly in-depth, right? So, Tom, is it really anything you can elaborate on when it comes to those four basic qualifications and the application process?
Yeah, and Brian, I like this about us. I keep it simple. You get into the details. That's kind of how our brains work. I like to maybe I'm a little bit more basic. Let me make it easy for the audience in terms of work history qualifications. The rule of thumb that I give every single member who talks to me, every single person who calls my office, anybody I ever talk to about disability, if you've worked 5 out of the last 10 years, and you've paid Social Security, you've paid taxes, okay? So you've worked, as I like to call it, on the books for 5 out of the last 10 years. It's a almost certainty that you're eligible for Social Security disability. And look,
you're gonna hate me after this, Tom, because I got all these rules I got to tell people, but I'm going to go fast.
And that's why it's great. You do that, I'll do the easy stuff. So if you've never paid taxes, if you've never paid into the system, then you're not going to be eligible for Social Security disability. What you're going to be eligible for is something you alluded to a little earlier, and that's supplemental security income. And the easiest way I can tell somebody if they're eligible for SSI is if they qualify for welfare in their state. So in the state of Pennsylvania, if you're receiving either Medicaid benefits or welfare benefits, you qualify for SSI. But I think what we try to do in this seminar is we try to focus a little bit more specifically on those who have paid into Social Security.
Yes.
So 5 out of the last 10 years, you've worked and paid taxes, you're going to be pretty good to go. But if you want to know the easiest way to figure out if you're eligible, it's that earnings statement that you talked about earlier. If that earnings statement tells you what you're going to get, you're eligible. If that earnings statement doesn't have a number near disability and says you're a few credits shy, well, then you're a few credits shy and you're not eligible.
Well, on that note, let's talk about that age qualification and how those credits apply to that. It actually, I think people will be surprised to realize that these benefits can be paid out even as early as age 18. So, but it works like this: before the calendar quarter I'm going to get all technical. Before the calendar quarter in which you turn age 24, you must have earned at least 6 credits, equivalent to a year and a half of work, in the prior 3 years to pass the recent work test. So that's if you're before the age of 24. Now, between the ages of 24 and 31, and the reason why I think this is interesting, because really it's usually older people who think about it, right?
Yep.
But it actually, there are people who don't have the full 40 credits, and it can get technical, and I'm sure you've seen these. But between the age of 24 and 31, you must have spent at least half the time since turning age 21. This gets me. This is really good. Half the time since age 21 in what the SSA considers to be covered work. Half the time. So,
which, by the way, is just a special way of saying you're paying taxes.
Exactly. Right. So, and beyond age 31, the test is 5 years, 20 credits of work in that. And you just said this, but they have a technical way of saying it, right? You made it the easy way. The technical, now, if you're reading SSA, you go to their website, you're going to hear this. Beyond age 31, the test is 5 years or 20 credits of work in the decade immediately before you became disabled. This is what, 5 years?
Yep.
Like you were saying. So when it comes to these rules, how often do you see these becoming an obstacle to people qualifying for SSDI?
Yeah, look, here's how I like to break it down. I want everybody to understand, I don't care how old you are, whether you're 18, whether you're 2, you're 18, or you're 55, if there's medical conditions that are keeping you from working, I want you to think about applying for Social Security disability. It absolutely gets easier for people 50 to 66. That's the easy way to say it. But what I like about these tests is that they realize that if a younger individual, if I'm 21 and I get into a serious accident or I develop, God forbid, cancer, I'm not going to have the ability at 21 to have worked 5 out of the last 10 years. I was in high school and elementary school then. So the younger you are, the less credits and taxes you've had to pay to be eligible. That's how I keep this simple. That's how this test in my brain makes sense. I don't have to have worked as long because I'm not old enough to have worked as long, right?
Right.
Anybody on this call who's in their 40s and 50s and maybe even their 60s, the easiest way to say it is, have you worked 5 out of the last 10 years? And if the answer is yes, you're good. But if you're younger than that, then those 24 or 24 to 31 tests really come into play.
And so that being said, the fact that really, I guess the concept here is people need to understand there's 2 ways they're judging you. The first is by age, and this is how they're using those rules when it comes to age. The second is duration of work, right? So, and that most of the time when we hear about this, we're kind of conflating them, right?
Yeah.
Right. And so now, just to give you the details on the duration of work test, if you're younger than age 28, the duration test is 6 credits. Well, did we just say that with the age test too? So it seems all complicated, but they're really they are conflated. They are hand in hand. One can't work without the other. Now, at age 28 or older, you must have it. Now, this is where they get a little tricky. At least as many credits as the number of years since you turned age 22. Now, this is interesting. Here's some examples. So if you're age 30, you'd need to have worked at least 2 years, right? Or 8 credits, because 22 plus 8 is 30, which is your age. And then if you were, say, now, so you don't have all the 40 hours in, but you have 8 years since 22, you now qualify, right? Age 40, it's 4.5 or 18 credits. 50, it's 7 years or 28 credits. And at 60, it's 9.5 or 38 credits, just to give people an understanding that you can still qualify without 40 credits.
Yep.
Right? Is that the gist of it?
That's the gist of it. But Brian, let's not scare anybody. Just look at your earnings statement from SSA.gov. That's the easiest way to figure all this out. But, you know, I love that you get into the technical part of it because that's important. I don't want to scare anybody away from applying if they're not quite sure if they're eligible. I mean, that to me, go look and find your earnings statement online and see if you're eligible. That's the easiest way to do it.
Yeah, and I think for these details, I think the only, I guess, point to it is to say that there's hope if you don't have 40.
100%. I agree.
And I think that's the gist of it that we're kind of trying to get at.
Yep.
So, okay. Hold on. Let's make sure something. Yeah. So the SSC uses, this is where we're going to get fancy, Tom. I know, right? So the SSA uses what's known as the Social Security Blue Book when it comes to doing their disability evaluation under Social Security. These Blue Book details can be found. Now, this is, if you're looking for the details, which I know you're going to give people some real good points to not have to do, which I'm happy about. But, you know, there's a lot of, and I have a few clients like this, there's a lot of engineers out there, Tom, right? And so for the engineers out there, if you want to know the details on whether your illness qualifies or if it's there, you go to the online compendium on the SSA website, the one that Tom mentioned, www.ssa.gov. And it's actually on there. You got to dig around. I found it. And this is basically a list of both physical and mental health disorders that will automatically qualify for both SSDI and SSI if what you have is on the list. Also, it's worth noting that the Blue Book list of conditions are separated into two categories, Part A and Part B. Part A, this is, you know, really, we got a little into this, and I'd like when you kind of give us those rules to jump over this, but, you know, you certainly appreciate it after hearing these details. But Part A is made up of all conditions that relate to adults, and Part B is made up of conditions that relate to children. So, you know, to expand on this for us, Tom, are there actually that many conditions that they're exclusive to adults and children and warrant these two different categories?
Yeah, there are, but there a lot of them overlap. But again, I you know, one of my jobs tonight is I want to be the one who puts everybody at ease, right? So let me start by saying this. Social Security has a list, as you've indicated on this slide, of almost every medical condition under the sun. And if your medical condition specifically meets or equals how that list is, you win automatically. I mean, I love this, that they do it this way. But here's my very important point to everybody who's watching.
Your caveat.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your medical condition doesn't specifically meet or equal that list, because if your medical condition or conditions are keeping you from doing the job that you used to do or keeping you from doing any job 8 hours a day, 5 days a week on a consistent basis, then we can get you disability benefits. So I don't want you to worry, especially your engineer folks, right? Because trust me, I have a lot of clients who are like that, who they say, okay, Tom, tell me about this Blue Book of disability. I say, don't worry if your condition doesn't specifically meet that. We can still make the argument that you can't work because of your diabetes and your bad back and your high blood pressure. So again, this is important that people know about this, that certain medical conditions, especially the more technical ones, have these specific listing of disability that you could automatically get awarded for it. But I'd say 8 out of 10 people don't specifically meet one of those, but we can still win based upon the fact that their medical conditions are such that they just can't do their job.
Absolutely. You pointed that out before, and I think that gives people just, you know, a feeling that there's hope.
Yeah.
Because I'm certain there are many people who fall in between those cracks.
Yeah. And you know,
really suffering.
Brian, this might be a really good time to tell people that what I think is the single most important point in a disability case. Now, I'm a lawyer, right? So I'm supposed to tell you that having a lawyer is the most important thing, but I'm not going to say that tonight. I'm going to tell people that the most important player in this entire disability, this disability world is your doctor. Going to your doctor and making sure that you're complaining. And when I say complaining, I don't mean it in the sense that, oh, you're moaning and groaning, but you're actually making that doctor know all the things that have been bothering you with your medical condition. Because without medical documentation, I don't care how good of a lawyer I am or anybody else is, we're not going to win a Social Security disability case unless our client is treating for their medical condition. So instead of worrying about whether your condition matches a specific list, you should worry about the fact that, am I going to the doctor enough and saying all the things that bother me? I'm going to give you a quick story. The worst client I could have is the male or female client who says, hey, you know what, doc, I feel the same. Nothing's changed, I feel the same. That's not good enough. If things are bothering you, if things are hurting you, I need you to tell your doctor that those things are bothering you and hurting you. I know sometimes a lot of people don't want to sound like they are complaining, but the one free pass that you get is it with your doctor. That's where you got to be open and honest about all the problems. Hey, my knee is throbbing on a daily basis. Yeah, I take a bunch of Advil every day and deal with it, but it's throbbing. It hurts so bad that I have to sit down. I have to elevate it. These are the types of things that you need to communicate to your doctor. And I guarantee you, your case has a much better chance of winning if you're talking like that versus saying, yeah, it's the same, doc. It's the same.
Definitely get that. Here's an important one, I think. How can you explain how children can qualify for SSDI?
Yeah, so they don't technically qualify for the SSDI like you and I would because we paid into the system. They would qualify under SSI. They would qualify under the SSI program. Now the problem with that is the SSI program for children. If the mother and or father or both are working and making money, that actually comes into account. So they may not qualify. They may qualify medically, but they may not pass the financial requirements. But a child would get SSI, not SSDI.
Now, if a parent was receiving SSDI and their child needed help, had a condition as well, could they qualify then?
Yes, under the parent's record. Great point there. Up until their age of 22.
Up to 22. So they don't have. They're basically doing it like you would do a regular Social Security claim if the parent was collecting a benefit.
Here, I love that you do this because what you do is you spark more thoughts for me to kind of make sure I express. If you're 45 years old and you're applying for disability benefits and you win, one of the benefits of winning your case is not just that you get a monthly check from Social Security. If you have children under the age of 18 who are perfectly healthy, they get benefits as well. And the reason why Social Security does that is they know that you're someone who has children under the age of 18, you're not able to work, and they know that children cost more money than not having children, right? So they give you extra benefits. Look, I have kids, you have kids, you know that they cost more, right? It costs more. So that's a great benefit of being on the disability program. If you have children under 18, they actually get benefits automatically until they turn.
Yeah, so just like the regular, and that's the same for regular retirement Social Security benefits. If someone's collecting, they're of retirement age, but they have children under the age of 16, then they can actually all collect a family benefit. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand because I think there's only about 6% of the claims out there that are under those. And I think one of the things that a lot of people really don't understand is that applies to Social Security disability benefits as well. So yeah, exciting for people to know that, right?
Yep.
All right, so.
Wait, we got Joe wants to say something. We got
yeah, no, go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things and the purpose for this webinar is Tom and I have done presentations at the unions, and there's nothing worse than having, individuals that are retired that missed these opportunities, that thought that they needed to, be catastrophically injured and or those individuals that, are having a difficult time, still working and aren't aware that these benefits are available and end up spending the rest of their life in pain. A lot of people are work and don't also know that the illnesses, like Tom said, cancer, autoimmune diseases, arthritis, diabetes, along with injuries that don't necessarily have to be work injuries.
Yeah.
If somebody got injured, mowing their own lawn or bending over to pick up something at their house, but there's so many people that are in pain or working at a job that can't make it, and they're trying to hang on as long as they can and they don't realize the benefits that they're eligible for. And another thing I want to say is this. Of course, being the host of the labor show in Philly and being a member of organized labor is one thing, but we want to do something that's called labor to neighbor, and that is share our program and our resources, like Tom Giordano and the attorneys here at Lehocky, who make it easy for people, because this is not an overnight program. You don't just file it and the next day you get it. I've had many of our members try to apply and don't find out for months that they made a mistake. We want to share our resources with those that are not in unions to show people what we're all about also. These are game changers. There's nothing worse than being in at a union hall and looking at retirees who may have retired, and another set of individuals who retired and didn't know about these benefits. It's potentially $3,000 a month.
Yep.
And it's a game changer for people that are eligible, and we want people to know who's eligible and take the misnomers out of the equation. I wanted to say that because I want people to know why we're here, in regards to Social Security disability.
Well, obviously, the statistics prove out that about 80% of the disabled people out there aren't collecting Social
Now
Security.
you say disabled, but people's idea of disabled,
That's spot on.
are they think you got to be in a wheelchair, God forbid, or catastrophically injured.
That's right.
And the reality is, you just have to not be able to do the job you are doing at the level that you're used to be able to do it. And so you may be a secretary and you may have carpal tunnel. You don't, God forbid, you don't have to have been in a car accident and totally disabled. So I want to clear that up. And I've learned that from Tom and Sam here at Lehocky, because that is one of the biggest misnomers. There's so many people, like you said, right, 80% are eligible and they don't know it. And therefore it impacts an entire part of their life. And you're talking about potentially $3,000 a month that you paid into through your FICA on your paycheck. I've seen those looks on people that never knew, that didn't have this education.
Brian, let me make that. First off, that is such an important point, and it's for our union. It's for our union friends and family, but it's for anybody who's worked any physical job in their life. Okay,
over and above the union.
Yes. Think about this for a second, and you guys are
be a secretary with carpal tunnel, right?
Exactly right. But when we talk to unions, right? So we both come from union families. There's not many people who retire from doing a physical trade or labor that are perfectly healthy, because all you've done for the last 20, 30 years is bend, squat, climb, carry, lift. So you're just dealing with repetitive, the union worker says, well, it's just part of the job. I'm dealing with it. It's just part of but when you retire or when you stop working because of the pain in your shoulder or the pain in your knee, you can't do that job anymore. Joe hit it right in the head. That's a disability. It's not a wheelchair or bedbound. You can't do that job anymore because you literally can't lift any more weight. So anybody who's listening tonight who does physical work for a living and has done it repetitively for years, it takes a toll on you. When you stop working, I want everybody to consider disability immediately. and especially our union friends, I cannot tell you, and I'm talking in the thousands of union members that we've helped who have literally retired because they that's one of the beautiful things about a union. You're eligible for a pension, right? So you hit your magic number and you retire. And you retire in pain, but guess what? You retire with your dignity because you have a pension. You're missing out on applying for disability in addition to that pension. Because like Joe said, that's an extra $3,000 maybe a month you can get.
Right, and here's the thing. When I talk about seeing long faces when we go to these union halls and meet with retirees, you have to, in the retiree sense. Now, Brian, you've talked about individuals 50 years old, 40, 30, and doing that, and people don't even know that that's possible. But those are things you have to know. If you have, however, let's look at the person that's 60 years old, 62, whatever, and they're retiring. One of the things that we have is a program with labor, and I want all of our people who are not in unions to pay attention also. We always say, as one of the protocols, when you retire, make it a part, as you know right now, because you know that it's, you probably are entitled to it, and eligible is a better word, eligible for it. When you retire and you hand your retirement papers in, file out a Social Security disability application as well, because if you have elements that made it not possible to do your job like you always were able to, not because you're disabled and fell off a building, but because you're not physically capable of doing what you're doing, you're likely eligible for Social Security disability. That's an extra $3,000 a month. You want to see long faces? Talk about people who you got 5 years to do it. Yep. The sooner you do it.
One of the things I want to do, if possible, and I think that we certainly, I think that that is a very valid point. And as far as like having things and not knowing, I think there's a flip side to that as well. And I think this next slide here kind of points it out. There's also people with terminal illnesses, and a lot of people look at workers' comp Social Security disability, and they think to themselves, just takes too long. You got to qualify for that. I don't know if I have it in me and whatnot. Well, there is a special qualification list that's called the Compassionate Allowance Program, or CAL program.
Right.
And these are for conditions that will qualify an applicant for what's known as expedited ruling. So currently, and this was as of 2021, there's 254 conditions on that list. And as you can imagine, they are pretty serious conditions which warrant an expedited ruling or process by the SSA. These include conditions like fast-moving cancers, immune system and degenerative diseases, rare genetic disorders, and other illnesses that by definition meet Social Security standard for disability and prevent sufferers from working, being able to work, and are even likely to result in death. So what are some of the situations that you've seen related to this, Tom?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, when you have a critical case and you have, let's say, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, you have end-stage renal disease, you don't have to wait as long as the average disabled applicant. They have a compassionate allowance program, which I really appreciate, because there are some critical cases, stage 4 cancer, et cetera, where you might not even have the life expectancy to wait. So they fast track it through. It's not a lot. It's 254 conditions as of last year. But what I will say to the rest of the audience who may not have that critical of an issue is I've been very pleasantly surprised over the last 24 months with how quickly cases are getting processed. Because in the past, we were talking about a 2 to 3 to sometimes 4 year wait for you to get in front of a judge or even get your benefits. Whereas since the pandemic has started, the one benefit I've seen is all cases have been expedited, because I just think they're able to get to them sooner. So yeah, if you to hammer home your slide, There are certain conditions that automatically will get you a quick decision, but I am pleased to say that anybody who's applying at this point will get a quicker decision.
Let's talk about the application process a little bit, because I think people are a little miffed over this. First of all, you need to file an application. Well, you can file one online, or you can call for an appointment. What's the state? I know today, I mean, can people even go into an office anymore? I mean,
not right. Good question. Not right now. Social Security has essentially shut down all offices throughout the country. Doesn't mean they're not working. They're just, you can't go into the office like you used to. And there's pretty much an office in almost every town, or close to every town. But you can still file online, which is important. You can call in, and this is not a pitch to use an attorney by any means, or you can use an attorney like our office or other qualified disability, attorneys, and they can apply for you.
well, we're going to talk about that in a minute, and there's been some studies done on that I think are pretty interesting.
Yeah, there sure has.
So also, you got to fill the actual disability application out. You got to provide medical evidence, which you talked about, staying up with your doctor.
Yep.
Be provided how it relates to your condition and how it could come either directly. Now, this is something people don't know. It can come directly from you, but 99% of the time it comes from their doctors, right?
Yeah. I mean, I will tell you what I tell my clients or my potential clients. You can absolutely do this on your own. The one thing that I've noticed is when somebody calls my office, they are stressed out of their minds because they are literally in pain. They're not working and they're worried about their financial future, right? The last thing that most people want to do, Brian, is apply on their own, have to supply all this information, call their doctors, et cetera, et cetera. You can absolutely do it. I don't want to discourage anybody from doing it. But I also want people to understand that, that might be one less stressor in your life if you have a qualified individual like a Lehocky.
Is there a cost for the application?
No, there's not. I mean, that's another thing. And the consumer should know this. We don't get paid unless you win. It's called the contingent fee. Now, my partner, Sam Palm, was just here. He would have given you an impassioned speech about the contingent fee. That means you can hire quality representation without worrying about out-of-pocket costs, without worrying about paying anybody unless you win. And by the way, Joe, to your point, we only get paid if you win. And if you win, Social Security will pay us. You don't even have to pay out of your own pocket. So there's a lot.
So just to give some background on that, what goes in, there has to be a report submitted. Things go on it like your date of onset, which includes both the date of injury and or date of last work, your name, address, dates of visits to hospitals, doctors, clinics, etc. So obviously the putting the application in, having all the correct things. And I think one of the things we talked about last time, I think to drive home that point is you leave anything out, you're going to start all over again, right? The details are so important with this, right, Tom?
The easiest way to say it is if you leave any doctor off your application, they will not reach out to that doctor. So therefore, those medical records will not be in your file. So it's almost as if that treatment didn't happen. So you're absolutely right, Brian.
I have to dot all the I's, cross all the T's to make sure it's right. If I have any pitch for an attorney, that's what I think really drives home because, leave it when it comes to anything of this magnitude, you want to make sure someone who does it all the time and understands all the details that aren't going to leave anything out for you to get denied, because you do hear those rumors about people denied, 2-3 times before they get accepted. But a lot of times it can be because a lot of details are left out, right?
Yeah, and this is probably the best time for me to tell anybody who applied and was denied to never stop appealing. You have a 60-day deadline from the time you get denied to whether you can appeal. Don't start over. Continue the process. Appeal. Don't accept the denial because your chances get better every time.
Well, on that note, there are people who are on can experience. There can be processes. There are processes to terminate benefits. I think people need to have some insight on that because maybe we're talking to a few people that are on already.
Correct.
And just to go through a little punch list here first, one way of being terminated is through a medical continuing disability review, also called a CDR. Could also be a work continuing disability review, and also through a submission of new evidence, which can happen. We talked about that before, and also through reports that are given from the public. So maybe you can shed a little light on these things.
Yeah, this is an easy slide to really hammer home. If you've been awarded Social Security disability, the most important thing to keep remembering is that you should keep going to your doctor, because just because you won your case doesn't mean you should stop treating, right? You still have those problems. So if you continue to see your doctor and you continue to tell the doctor of the problems you have, your benefits will continue. The reports from the public, that one always makes me a little mad, but also makes me laugh a bit. Just because you're mowing your grass doesn't mean you can work 40 hours a week. And a lot of times the Social Security Administration will get these anonymous phone calls from neighbors who say, my neighbor's on disability and I see him mowing his grass. That's impossible. He can't be disabled. Well, what if he has a mental issue? What if mentally he can't do his job? If physically he's fine, or he's got cancer, he's feeling good that day. So the reports from the public are one thing. My advice to all of my clients, and I'll give my advice to everybody listening today, is nobody needs to know you're on disability benefits. If you're awarded disability benefits, that is private. Keep it to yourself. You don't have to worry about issues from reports from the public.
You just hit on this one, appeals and reconsideration. So obviously individuals, can appeal if they're denied.
Don't stop.
They could also ask for a reconsideration. And then the third step is to apply for a hearing before an administrative judge. Can you talk about this process a little bit?
Yeah. Let me give people some hope. So when you apply, about 7 out of 10 people get denied. So 30% of people win, 70% get denied. File a reconsideration. You keep going. You don't stop.
And you could be on the list and everything, right? You're saying
everything. Yep. File a reconsideration. Maybe another 10% of people get awarded. The same people get denied. But when you go in front of a judge, your chances of success get much higher. So I don't want anybody to be discouraged. There's 3 processes here. You can get awarded any one of those, but keep going. I can't stress that enough.
Absolutely. So, and of course, just a quick one on supplemental security income, so people understand the difference. So let's briefly discuss the difference, because I think in terms of qualification. So the main difference in terms of qualifying is that Social Security disability benefits are based on having to pre-qualify through your personal contributions to the Social Security program based on your work record. And the supplemental security income requires a pre-qualification based on financial need and disability, which means once someone qualifies for both of these through the disability, then there's a monthly payment. The monthly payment amount will depend on either how much they contributed to the Social Security program when it comes to their SSDI payments, or what their need is when it comes to their SSI. So you have to qualify for the disability first, and then in terms of how much you're going to make and whatnot, the one has to do with how much you paid in, the other one has to do with how bad you're needed. So just giving people an idea. Now, still, the maximum amount for 2021, it may have gone up, I don't know, like you said, for SSI, $794, which is well below the current average for SSDI payment of $1,277. So just wanted people to kind of know that off the bat. Here's the one. So do you need an attorney? This is a big one that, to kind of bring out some facts on. I hear, just to bring a little research in it, it's not required to have an attorney, but you do have a right to professional representative. It's a right you have. It's not just about, do I need one to get approved? You actually have a right to it, okay? And the professional representative can be either an attorney or a disability advocate who isn't a lawyer but has passed an SSA administered exam. Don't see many of them around, but, and then here's the other thing. In 2017, there was a study by the Federal Government Accountability Office. They found that people who are represented at disability hearings are nearly 3 times more likely to be successful. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm biased. And by the way, we're in my office right now and the lights just went out, but I'll go fix that as soon as I'm done talking.
We're just about there.
Yeah. You know, I will say this. Obviously I'm biased because I'm an attorney, but I see it. I see it every day. I mean, I know what our win rate is versus what the national win rate is, and it's, you know, double or triple. But I just think it's a matter of, you know, think of it this way. When you need a specialist, you got to get a specialist, right? You can do it on your own. You absolutely can apply on your own. It's very possible, and you may even be able to win. But I think as you get further down the process, Brian, especially in front of a judge, you need an attorney to be there with you. And if I can just say this to your audience, I wouldn't pick any attorney. I would pick an attorney who specializes in this area of the law. Just like you wouldn't go to if you had a heart problem, you wouldn't go to an orthopedic doctor who works on knees and shoulders, right? You would go to a heart surgeon. I just want, that's important. Doesn't mean you have to use Lehocky. We'd love to help you. I just want you to use somebody who's done this area of the law, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of technicalities. So you want somebody who knows what they're talking about.
Absolutely. And there's time at stake.
Yeah.
There's
and
time.
Money, and a lot of money is, as Joe has brought out a couple times already, there's a lot of money at stake. Retroactive money, future payments, Medicare. There's just too much.
Right. And you mentioned retroactive. So when somebody applies, talk about if it takes some time, they get their benefit from the date that they.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, it goes from the date you're found disabled. But in many scenarios, Brian and Joe, we're going back, you're getting 2 years worth of retroactive benefits. I mean, it's, it could be a substantial chunk of money that you're getting in back benefits and future benefits. So it's big dollars. We're not just talking about pennies here.
Well, absolutely. And I hope that we've driven our point home and we've educated you guys at least enough to pique your interest to want to find out if either yourself or someone who has some of the issues that we've talked about, and to at least look into it, because the educational process we know is there when 80% of the people out there who are disabled are not collecting the benefit. So now that we covered all the Social Security disability content that we had on our agenda for today, let's jump a little into the introduction to Medicare. I'm going to try to go through this as quick as possible. I know we ate up a lot of people's time, part of the workshop. So we're going to cover most of the basic information that people should know when it comes to Medicare. So you should walk away from this workshop having a solid base as it relates to it. But there is a plethora of information related to it out there, way more than we could possibly cover in an hour-long workshop, or really a half of a workshop. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us in the future if you need more than what we covered today. Also, listen, I consider myself a specialist when it comes to Social Security retirement benefits, Medicare planning, and long-term care planning. But I am by no means the end-all expert when it comes to these benefits. So, but I can tell you that I met more than 90% of my clients by doing upwards of 100 or so Social Security seminars and webinars over the years. So I do know a good bit about it. So, if I don't know the answer to any of your questions that we shoot tonight, my designation as a National Social Security Advisor certificate holder puts me in very close contact with the people who do know. And of course, I certainly don't mind doing the research on it. So let's talk a little bit about Medicare. Did I go through? Yeah. First thing, let's talk about who's eligible for Medicare. It's pretty straightforward. There's really two main classifications when it comes to it. First, people age 65 and older. Now, there's some qualifications there. You have to be a U.S. citizen or legal resident who's lived in the United States for at least 5 consecutive years. And it is worth noting that they do not have to be collecting Social Security retirement benefits to file for Medicare. There are some situations where they don't. The second is people are receiving Social Security disability benefits for at least 24 months. We talked about that a little. Whoa, sorry, getting a little ahead of myself. Whoa. So there are 2 exceptions when it comes to the 24-month rule, though. The first is people with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. And the second is people with permanent kidney failure, also known as end-stage renal disease, that they do not have to wait the 24 months and they can be approved immediately. So let's go over the different parts of Medicare coverage. It starts with what is called Medicare Part A coverage. And that's the part of Medicare that covers hospital-related expenses and is sometimes referred to as the hospital insurance part of Medicare. However, it might actually be more accurate to relate it more to expenses that involve skilled nursing care rather than a hospital, because it not only covers acute nursing care at a hospital, but it also covers short-term stays in nursing homes, rehabs that provide nursing care, skilled nursing facilities, as well as home health care, by a nurse. It even covers hospice care. So when you look at it, it may actually be more care that is covered outside of a hospital by a nurse than actually inside a hospital. So there are some bullet points that you should probably know about when it comes to Part A. 1, there's no premium for this coverage if you have all 40 credits paid into the Social Security system. But in 2022, Part A actually costs $499 a month for a person that has less than 30 credits, and $274 a month for anybody who has credits between 30 and 39. So there is actually a premium related to Social Security, Part A, Medicare. It's just most people don't incur it because the people who apply most of the time have 40 credits. But we did talk about, right, Tom, the people who qualify for Social Security disability, right, who don't have 40 credits. So they could be in a situation where they have enough credits to at least get the Medicare benefit Part A, but they may have to pay. So, just food for thought. I don't know if everybody knows that. It covers most inpatient hospital, skilled nursing facility. It also covers home health care and hospice. Individuals and their spouses are entitled to Part A. It does have a deductible, though. For every 60 days that you spend in the hospital in 2022 rate, you have to pay $1,556 for every 60-day stint that you spend in the hospital. You can go to any qualified hospital in the United States that accepts Medicare patients. Most of them do these days, but I suppose they have to qualify that because there may still be a few out there that don't. It's also available to all people on SSDI after 2 years of receiving that benefit, which we discussed earlier. And there's Part B, or no, hospital stays. So let's talk a little bit about Part A. I'm sorry, got ahead of myself. Like I said, for a hospital stay, details are $1,550 for every 60 days. There is a co-insurance, though, that from 61 days to the 90th day, you pay $389 co-insurance per day for each stay. And when you get above 90 days, it's $778 co-insurance per day. There is what's called a lifetime reserve that you can buy into if you pass that 150 days. as well. So it can go to the better part of, half a year, but it can be, it's not unlimited. That's my point. So talk about Part B. So Part B, you can think of this as the doctor care or the medical services insurance. It helps with the cost of doctor's visits and other medical services that do not require an inpatient hospital stay. Also, there is an annual deductible. 2022, it's $233 for the year. After thereafter, it covers 80% of doctor's bills and outpatient expenses. The standard monthly premium in 2022 is $170.10. It may be less for some people if they qualify for, say, Medicaid. Also, beneficiaries with incomes that are over certain thresholds can actually pay more, even up to double for this coverage. And that's under with something that's called IRMA. So for higher income Medicare recipients, when they make over certain thresholds of income, they're going to pay more benefits than the lower recipients. So, and how that works is that you can see this chart. The thresholds that different categories of recipients will pay at different income thresholds, and that's what it shows for 2022. So you can see that an individual, once they pass $91,000 of income, they start to see higher premiums. And for a married couple filing jointly, it starts at $182,000 and goes up in increments until it reaches an income of $500,000 for an individual and $750,000 for a couple. Plus, the incremental premium increase starts at $238.10 per person. That's the amount it goes up at the first level. If say you make $91,000 as an individual, you're paying $170.10 a month. If you cross that threshold, you're going to add $238.10 to that $170.10. And that's how much your Medicare premium for Part B is going to be. If you make as high as $500,000, you're going to pay an additional $578.30 added to that $170.10. So there really is kind of a tax on people who are higher income when it comes to it. Now, one thing that's important to know is that you're guaranteed for your Social Security benefits to stay the same or not be reduced, regardless of the annual inflation adjustments that are applied to your Medicare Part B premiums every year. So this is because of something that's known as the hold harmless provision. And the hold harmless provision works like this. It was implemented in 2006, and it basically, it works by the government taking each Medicare recipient's Social Security benefit cost of living adjustment increase. So we just got a 7% increase. You know that, right, Tom? 7%.
Biggest one in over 10 years.
Absolutely. And so people are really happy about that. Some people may not have actually seen a full increase, 7% on their benefit, because our Social Security, our Medicare premiums also went up. Some close to, I think, 6%. So what they're going to do is they're going to take that 7% increase and they're going to apply it to that increase in the Medicare. Now there may be some left over, and you'll get that, or there may be none left over. And to be honest with you, most years there's none left over, because that Medicare, because medical coverage, we've only until this year, I mean, we're getting less than 2% increases for a long time. You go up 2% on your income, but 6 or 7% on your Medicare premium, you may end up, it would look on paper like you actually got to pay more for it, but you don't. because of this home harmless provision. The government says, if that happens, we'll pay for it. And your Medicare and your Social Security benefits will stay the same. So that's important, I think, for people to know, because they see that, number one, they're getting COLA adjustments, cost of living adjustments, and they may think they're going to get that. And sometimes they may, and sometimes they may not. And if they don't, it's because that was applied to the increase in the Medicare premium. So, although Part A and B are very good coverage, there are definitely some things to consider before you commit to them. One, they don't cover 100% of your medical expenses. They only cover 80% of your hospital medical expenses. Plus, they don't cover any routine vision, dental, or hearing expenses, or any custodial-based long-term care that may end up being needed. Secondly, their cost-sharing requirements between A and B can start really to add up over time, especially if you're going to be in the hospital for any length of time that's longer than what they, especially Part A, allows for. Three, there's technically no limit on the out-of-pocket expense when it comes to A. So you keep that in mind. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about Part B, which is your prescriptions or drugs first. Then we'll talk about C. So Part D covers recipient's drug prescriptions. It's made up of all voluntary outpatient prescription drug plans, which are offered exclusively through private insurance carriers contracted with Medicare. There are two types: standalone prescription drug plans, are called PDPs, and Medicare Advantage plans, are called MAPDs. Some bullet points as it relates to that. Premiums and cost sharing vary. Most plans have a gap in coverage at some point in the year, which is also known as the donut hole. So you want to be careful which ones you choose, because some leave less of a gap than others. Each plan has a list of drugs that it covers, and they're usually different for each carrier. You have to shop for the plan that carries your medication. Also, it's possible for you to end up with permanently increased premiums if you delay your enrollment in Part D. With a gap in your coverage, too, you actually could somehow, depending on how long that gap is, end up with seriously increased premiums. And the same thing can happen with Part B as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit at some point. So, again, there is also a IRMA for people, which, you know, it works the same way as it does with Part B. And what happens there, same income thresholds, different numbers. Right now, at the first income level, first of all, the benefit amount for 2022 is $33.37 per person per month. But it could increase at the first level by $12.40. And at the highest level, it could increase as much as $77.90 per person. You got to remember, you're going to add that to your increased Part B premiums too, so it can start to get meaty after a while. So, okay, there's a Medicare option that includes all of Part A, B, and D coverage in one. It's called Medicare Part C, also known as the Medicare Advantage Plan. It's made up of plans offered by private insurance companies completely. The bullet points for C are: one, each plan must have Part A and Part B equivalent insurance coverage. Two, beneficiaries may pay additional monthly premiums for additional services like dental, vision, hearing, annual physicals, prescriptions, certain prescriptions, silver sneakers programs. They usually provide some type of gym membership or fitness classes or something like that. They're all individual when it comes to that. Three, beneficiaries may be restricted to go only on the plan's network of providers for their healthcare service. They work just like HMOs do. The plan may not be available in all areas. Just in case you move to another area while you're covered by one, you may actually not be covered by that one in a different area. The final one is beneficiaries' eligibility for enrollment is not affected by health or financial status, although there are special rules for people with specific conditions. They may be limited to Part C special needs plan, it's called, which are also created for people that have end-stage renal disease. So how popular are the Medicare Advantage plans? Well, approximately 42% of beneficiaries were enrolled in Medicare Advantage plans in this past year, 2021, and $343 billion, or 46% of the total federal Medicare spending of net premiums went to them. How does it work for the government to offer these plans? Well, each healthcare company's plan is paid a fixed amount per enrollee per year by the Medicare program. But each plan actually offers different features as part of their coverage, all of which must be absorbed by that fixed rate that they are paid. So keep that in mind. Some of them want to be more competitive, and they're going to offer you more stuff. So you definitely want to shop them. So now let's talk about Medicare supplement plans. So again, like we said, as we mentioned earlier, Medicare Part A and B only cover 80% of your hospital and medical expenses. So most people opt to purchase what's known as Medicare supplement plans. They're commonly referred to as Medigap plans. You may hear that as well. They're offered through private health insurance companies as well. So they only come from private health insurance companies. And they pay the 20% not covered by Medicare, as well as we mentioned earlier, many of the deductibles and coinsurances that aren't covered by Medicare either. So like we talked about, you could literally get into a situation where it's unlimited how much it could cost. So what people do is they get a Medicare a supplement plan, and they will pay the difference. And so you won't have to worry about any of the difference. Premiums, though, can vary because they also are very competitive. In order, some offer more benefits than others. They can differ between insurance companies' plans. The current range in monthly premium can be between $160 and $250 a month per person. So we're not going to get too much into it, but here's the list of the types of benefits that come with most Medicare supplement plans. And as you can see, they do get pretty specific as to what they do cover, and mentioning the fact that they will cover also the first 3 pints of blood, which is exempted from Medicare. They don't pay that. It gets really micro in these in how they pay for things. And they also have certain percentages they'll pay of like foreign travel emergency services. Because if you're overseas and you need coverage, sometimes you're not going to be covered on Medicare. These could possibly, if you get the right plan, they'll cover them. Let's quickly talk about the enrollment period that most people are eligible for at different times based on the situation. We're almost through this, folks. So these are, unbelievably important, okay, to be aware of. Because if you do not abide by these closely, you could end up being penalized. And in some cases, the penalties are unbelievably steep and they're permanent. So pay close attention to these. Here are the different classifications. First, you could be automatically be enrolled, but that only happens in one instance. So if someone's receiving Social Security disability benefits already, they don't have to do anything. They do not have to apply. They will start automatically. They will apply for your Medicare immediately after the 24 months of receiving benefits. You do nothing. Next, is the initial enrollment period. And that happens when you're age 65. It actually starts 3 months before the month you turn 65. It includes the month you turn 65 and then continues for 3 months after you turn 65. So it's actually a 7th month time period. If you miss that enrollment period, you could end up and you're not working. Okay, I'm going to talk about that in a second. You could end up having to file during another enrollment, and then you would be assessed that penalty. In this particular case, for Part B, it's a 10% penalty. Then there's also, so this is for people, initial enrollment periods for people that are retiring when they turn 65. Now, if you're going to continue work past 65, then when you go to retire, you have what's called a special enrollment period. So if you're still working after 65, you have 8 months from the date that your employment ended to file for your benefits. Then every year after that, there is a general enrollment period. This is for people who miss their initial enrollment period and their special enrollment period. This is when they start to assess the penalties. And that period, and we're actually in it right now, and Rachel knows all about that, because Rachel does this every day, okay? It runs from January 1st of every year to March 31st. If you sign up during this period, your coverage will not begin, though, until July 1st of that year. And then there's the annual election or open enrollment period. Now, this happens from October 15th to December 7th of every year. And this is the time when you can either join, switch, or drop a plan that you currently have. Your coverage will begin on January 1st. So if you did it on the first day, October 15th, switch to a plan, you will not switch over until January 1st, the following year, obviously. And as long as that plan's requested by December 7th each year, it will actually start on the 1st. If you pass the 7th, then you could get into further time periods. Just to look quickly into the penalties. Let's talk about what happens, right? So Part A, if you happen to buy Part A and you don't buy it when you first are eligible for Medicare, now we're talking Part A. Most people are not paying for Part A. So we're talking about people who didn't have enough credits. If they don't have enough credits and they sign up and they don't sign up under those enrollment periods at the correct time, they're actually going to get assessed a 10% penalty for every year that they, no, and actually for this one, it's not every year, it's not permanent. You'll pay that higher premium for twice the number of years you didn't sign up for. So if you skipped it for 2 years, you're going to pay it for 4. Now, for Part B, the penalty for not signing up at the right time is 10% for each full 12-month period that you missed. And this period runs from the end of the initial enrollment period, which is when you were originally qualified at age 65, to the end of the general enrollment period, which we said is March 31st. So they can increase every year because the formula being used is actually based on a percentage of the higher Part B premiums. So whenever you deal with a percentage, when a Part B premium goes up, now you're paying 10%. Last year it was $142. This year it's $170. I was paying 10% of $142 a month. So whatever, I'm going to pay 10% the following year of $170. So over time, they can really add up. Side note, if you are on COBRA, so you're still keeping benefits from your employer for say 18 months after you left, This is not, you cannot delay Medicare enrollment because you have coverage through COBRA. It will cause you to miss that initial enrollment period, and you'll end up in a penalty situation. Now, Part D Medicare calculates the penalties by multiplying 1% of the national base beneficiary premium. That's a fancy way to say of what the monthly premium is, which is today $33.37. 1% of that, okay, times the number of full uncovered months that you didn't have Part D or creditable coverage, some type of other coverage that's they consider as good. Plus, they're going to round it up. This is how anal they are. They're rounded up to the next 10 cents. And that's what you're going to pay as a penalty. And that will be permanent. All right. Finally, let's talk about the ways you can apply for Medicare. Well, it takes about 10 minutes online. So it allows you to apply for Medicare on your own work record, not your spouse's work record. Okay, so when you're doing it online, you can only do it for yourself. Can file for Medicare Part A only, so you have the choice to do that, or you can also opt to take Part B as well when you're online. And you must be at least 64 and 9 months. So basically, they're allowing you to start filing for the benefit 3 months before you turn 65. If you're outside the initial 7-month Medicare enrollment period, it may be you may be asked to provide proof of employer group health coverage to verify, and that there's so that there's no penalty for delayed enrollment. So you got to prove that you were covered. So you can also sign up like we talked about on SSA.gov and do a search for the closest SSA office to you. You can sign up for an appointment online. You won't even have to wait. They'll give you a specific time, which is very nice. And you can also schedule a time to go into the office. I believe they are doing that. You can schedule a time, but you can't walk in. Phone number is 800-772-1213. You can also schedule a phone interview, which they'll do on whatever time period or schedule that you'd prefer. All right, folks. So went a little bit far long today, but this is a tough topic with a lot of information. Here's some of the resources that support the facts that we use today in our content. Rachel is going to be putting them up in her comment box for your later use if you're interested. Plus, we'll be leaving the webinar. We're going to actually leave this webinar platform up for about, 15, 20 minutes, a half hour after we're done, so that you can keep accessing the comment box to get any information from that you'd want. You can copy and paste it from that into a Word doc or an email and email it to yourself. So we're going to leave it open. We're not going to shut it down where you won't have access to it right away. So that concludes our presentation for today. So we can now jump into our 7-question quiz, which we're going to run through real quick. And then we'll answer questions before we conclude the webinar. So let's dig into this. I hope some folks here, we still got 73 people on. That's a substantial amount. I hope you took a few notes. First question. In what year were Social Security disability benefits added to the Social Security program? Remember, I was almost the first line of this webinar. In what year were the Social Security disability benefits added to the Social Security program?
Wendy was fast there.
Wendy already got it, Brian.
So Wendy, all right, 1956. I love it. You win a gift card to the store of your choice. I want you to do me a favor, Wendy. I want you to type in there what store it is. Now, I want you to know we do the two that I can send immediately via email, quickest that I know of, are well, actually I found out you can do Walmart, but Target a lot of people do. Amazon, of course, you can do immediately. Walmart, there is a way to do it. But really, any store of your choice, all of them sell gift cards. I don't know what kind of bang for your buck you can get for $10, but you know, whatever it is, we're willing to get it for you.
We don't support Walmart, just so you know. You know that as
Okay.
union people.
All right. So, all right. Well, let's cut out Walmart. But now we gave them the choice, Joe. So if they want to support them, that's up to them. No, second question. Where can you find an estimate of what your Social Security benefits would be now? Where can you find an estimate?
Wendy's fast.
It was $70.
Well, yeah. Wendy's doing good, Brian.
Wendy again? Holy smokes, we
Rachel's
got
Rachel's
68
the
people
boss.
on here.
It looked like Wendy.
All right. So, what did she say, Rach?
There, I couldn't unmute, sorry. Yep, but the SSA.gov, right?
Well, SSA.gov, but what are you looking for when you get there?
SSA.gov, there's something on SSA.gov specifically.
And you have to get it from there to see it.
Oh, there she goes. You got it, Social Security statement, right?
Yes, that's right. Number 3, what is the Social Security Blue Book? What is it? What's its content? What's on it? What's it made up of? The Social Security Blue Book. Anyone?
Wendy?
I
Come on.
got some lawyers who might not know that answer.
Going 5? Okay, I'm going to give you a hint. When you're sick or when you have a reason to apply for Social Security disabilities, what is that reason?
It's the disability conditions, right? Listed
Yes.
Yeah, Bob Blue got that.
All right, Bob, good one. Let us know what store you want it from, Bob. Okay. Who is eligible for Medicare? Who is Medicare? Who is eligible for Medicare? Now remember, there's really 2 main qualifications on the types. Just who's eligible?
Yeah, well, you want to take a partial answer? Are we going to split it?
What's it look like?
Well,
Let me give you a hint.
some people are getting one answer, some are getting the other.
It's in the first one is an age.
Okay, and what's the second one?
The second one, you're given 24 months.
James, I can't, it's going by too fast.
Can I jump on
Yeah, you
this?
can jump on it.
65 or SSD?
What?
That's right.
Yeah, he got it. James Zero, you got 65 or SSD.
Perfect. You
Good
got
answer.
it. Who got that one?
James Cerrone.
You got it. You got it, Abe. Okay. What does Medicare Part A cover
That's on
in
it.
general? In general, not specifically. In general.
Lori Warner got it. Hospital.
Yes. Yes. Or more specifically, could be thought of as skilled nursing care. But because it's not all at the hospital, but they kind of use the hospital because that's where most skilled nursing care comes from. The people see. All right. What percentage of your overall Medicare expenses does your Medicare supplement plan cover?
Frank, Frank was quick there. He got the answer before you even finished the question.
Really? 20? What was it?
I hope it's 80%.
Yeah.
That's Medicare. I said your Medicare supplement
Oh,
plan.
you're tricking them now. All right. man. All right.
So if they're covering 80, what's the supplement plan covering?
Even I got it wrong.
Somebody got it. Wait, Conda? Yep,
What was it?
you got 20%.
Yes. Who got that?
Oh, it's going by fast. It went up, but I think is it Shonda?
Shonda. Great job. Let us know where you want that gift card from. Final question. When does your initial Medicare enrollment period start? So I'm going to break this out. You're 65. You are retiring. That's when your initial enrollment period applies to. Only the time when you're 65. You'll never have another initial enrollment period again once you pass 65. When is the first day that you can actually sign up for Medicare?
There are some, Lori Werner got it 3 months prior to 65.
Yes, exactly. On the first day, 3 months prior. Lori, great job. Awesome. So there we did it. Lori, make sure you put in your who you want your gift card from. And now let's take a few questions.
And Brian, just to be clear, I tried to be efficient here. And while you were talking about Medicare, I was trying to answer some of the questions for the people. So, because I knew we were going over time. So I did think we got some, but feel free to go over.
Oh, okay. You were hitting some. Great.
I tried.
Well, maybe you want to go through the ones you did and you see there, Tom, that you didn't answer.
Yeah, and Rachel, you might be better to look at this than I am, but
Yeah.
there was one for Joe Doc in particular.
Really?
Wanted to know what's the Union radio show broadcast on 12:10 a.m. They need a plug.
What is it? It's Labor Show with J. Doc and Krause on Talk Radio 1210 WPHT every Saturday night at 6 o'clock, from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock.
That's a great question. I love it.
Got it.
Awesome. You love those kind of questions.
By the way, Sam
That's
Pond.
Joe's buddies out there in Union World.
We're sponsored by Pond Lehocky, and Sam Pond is one of our co-hosts, and so yeah.
Always our biggest supporter. Always.
So I'll tell you what, this was a question I was going to start to answer, but I think would be helpful for whoever's left on the program. Rich asked a really good question. What's the difference between partial and fully disabled? And the good news is there's no difference. Disability is disability. It's neither permanent. It's neither temporary. It's for as long as you're out of work and need it. So some people will be on disability until they hit their full retirement age, and then it converts. Some people will be on disability benefits for a few years, start feeling better, and go back to work. It's really as long as you need it, which is why I really like the program. So again, some people will need it longer than others, but it's just there for you while you're out of work because of any medical condition.
On one note related to that, though, that comes to mind when someone really qualifies the two, and I read about it sometimes, and I think sometimes this is where people think about partial versus total. When it comes to private disability insurance, there is a difference. And a private disability insurance policy, a partial, some cover work-related injuries to a certain degree, and some have to be non-work related. And the total will be 60%. They'll pay you of your income, and a partial, it's 50%. So that's one difference I know of, unrelated to Social Security disability, for people who just carry private disability coverage prior to, and that and most of that is short term. So when within a 2-year period, and then after that 2-year period, you would look to Social Security disability. So, but I do know that there's one, I guess if you call that a caveat, I don't know. It's not really a caveat to Social Security disability.
Yeah.
But I know that there's something there with that.
Yeah, the good news with disability is if you're awarded disability, you get what you get. There's no partial, there's no turn, it's just as long as you need it. There was a question, Brian, that I answered that I thought would be good to share with the group. One individual asked me whether if they get on disability, can they do things, like that they would want to do for leisure activities, maybe ride a boat, maybe go fishing. And the good news about disability is if you're found disabled, it means you can't do your job 40 hours a week on a consistent basis. It doesn't mean you can't mow your lawn. It doesn't mean you can't go down the shore with your friends and your family. It doesn't mean you can't do those things that you want to enjoy your retirement or, what make you happy. If you're a basketball player and you can play basketball 40 hours a week, well, then maybe you could work, right? But you can enjoy your life and still be on disability benefits. And that's something I really think is an issue with a lot of our retirees or pre-retirees at the unions. They don't want to get on disability and not do the things that they want to do. And the good news is you can.
Absolutely. No, I mean, I hope if there's one thing people got out of this is those types of small things that hold some people back from finding out if they qualify. Because like Joe drove the point home. I mean, you may qualify because it doesn't mean you got to be a quadriplegic.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Brian, one of the things I'd like to say is, obviously anybody's got any questions, and obviously the answers you guys are going to respond to everything, but they can contact the individuals on the screen. Tom Giordano, obviously at Lehocky, and of course Brian Dougherty. Of course, if you want to know about the labor show, call me anytime.
Yeah, well, what a lot of people don't realize, Joe, is that with the Injured Workers Advocacy Program, you have worked with many people who have been injured on jobs.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, hundreds probably.
Right. At least.
And so Joe is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to that and has guided many a worker through cases that, and some unbelievable, that they were done so wrong for a long period of time and got them to the point of being able to get their benefits. And Pond has been a big part of that, but Joe, being the liaison to that, because so many people don't know who to talk to, or and don't realize their rights and all these things. So folks, he's a lot more knowledgeable about injured workers and the rights that they have, and injured people for that matter, then I think this program led on. So definitely to reach out to him if you're in any type of situation related to work injuries and whatnot. He certainly can point you in the right direction.
Well, I mean, I would suggest if it's a work injury, and I say this, I would contact Palm Lehocky. But if you want to, so as far as the Injured Workers Advocacy Program is, we're an advocacy group that supports injured workers issues, and we have directed many an injured worker in the right direction, especially since it's such a difficult landscape. I'm extremely passionate about Social Security disability because I've seen many a union member and a person who doesn't work for a union find out after they were 5 years out of work and beat up that they gave up $3,000 a month, and only because of one thing: they didn't have the information. So our job as labor people and having a nonprofit and having access to these resources is to share them with our members and labor to neighbor, everybody who we can help. That's what it's all about.
Absolutely. So we're kind of coming down to the next hour, about 11 minutes before If there's a couple of quick ones or one more really, Rachel, that you can see that you think we should answer, and then
They seemed like they were fairly quick ones. There were some that were people were posting in the regular chat, and as they were scrolling by, I was saving them just to make sure that they didn't get lost in the shuffle. One, it says, is there a transition requirement from SSD to retirement? And also, what happens when you stop receiving workman's comp? Would your SSD payments increase?
So two separate questions. I'll answer the first one. There is a transition. So what I really like about this is if you're on SSD and you hit your full retirement age at 66 and whatever it is, you automatically convert from disability to retirement. So nothing changes. You keep getting paid, but you're no longer considered disabled. You're now considered retired. And that matters because maybe when you hit your retirement, your full retirement, you can go back to work if you want with no penalty whatsoever, continue to get your full retirement and your whatever you're earning. So it automatically converts. If you're on disability, it automatically converts at your full retirement age.
What was the second
Yeah,
question?
the second question was comp related, right?
It said, let's see, what happens when you stop receiving workman's comp? Would your SSD payments increase?
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes they do. Some people can get comp and disability at the same time without any penalty. And some people are getting so much comp that it reduces their Social Security amount of disability. And then once they settle or stop getting comp, their disability rate goes up. So it really depends on what you're getting in comp. But, that's what raises a good point there is if you're on workers' comp right now, you can apply for Social Security disability. Don't be discouraged.
anything else there, Rachel?
Yeah, there's another one here. It says, it was a question in terms of where to find the benefit. Like, when you were saying, when you go on to your Social Security, on the Social Security website and you look up your information there. What exactly are you looking for in terms of where would you find that amount?
Yeah, I was on the website today because I wanted to make sure I was given right information. Literally, you go on ssa.gov, and if you scroll down, you'll see a tab that literally reads My Social Security. If you click on that tab, it then takes you into how you can get your earnings statement.
All right.
Yep. There's just a few more here. It says, actually, this one is specific for you, Tom. It says, if I've applied and been turned down and awaiting another hearing, they currently have a lawyer. Are they allowed to change lawyers because they'd like to move over to Lehocky?
And I appreciate that. I would say this. You are allowed to change lawyers at any time. I have had people who have changed from us and vice versa. I wouldn't recommend changing if your lawyer is skilled in disability. I mean, obviously, if you're having problems communicating, yes. What I've learned in my experience over the last 20 years is if you threaten your attorney that you're leaving, they usually become a little bit more responsive. But to answer that direct question, yes, you could always change lawyers. It doesn't cost you 2 fees or anything like that. Being a lawyer myself, I would always suggest that if you're having problems with your current lawyer, express them. And if they don't listen, move on. But if you give them a chance, sometimes it's just, sometimes you think they're dragging their feet, but it's not them. They're just waiting for Social Security to do something.
One question on that though, Tom, the award would go to whoever your attorney is at the time of getting the award, right?
Yeah, sometimes it's a little bit more complicated. Sometimes they'll split the fee, but the good news for the client, the good news for the disabled person, they're paying one fee, and then the lawyers would have to fight it out essentially. So
that's fair.
Yeah, it's fair. So, you're not paying. The good news is you're not paying twice.
You're not really screwing somebody over then.
No, not at all. And again, it's about being comfortable. I think the most important thing a disability attorney can do for you is make it comfortable through the process because it sometimes could be a long one.
Oh, yeah.
There's just one more quick question, just to clarify. Someone wants to know, do your payments go retro back to when you initially applied?
If you apply for SSI, so supplemental security income, yes. If you are applying for SSDI, sometimes it can go even further back to when you applied. So let's say you've been out of work for a year and then you apply, you potentially could go back a year before your application date. So the easy answer there is you actually can get benefits before you apply, assuming you're out of work.
Somebody asked about what the fee is that's charged.
Yeah, so the fee is the same fee for every disability attorney in the country. That's the good news. It's all the same because it's governed under Social Security. It's no fee unless you win, and if you win, it's a one-time fee of 25% of your retroactive benefits. But if 25% is greater than $6,000, your attorney is capped at $6,000. So it's really the lesser of 25% of your retro, no more than $6,000.
And am I correct about this, Tom, that there's a 5-month waiting period?
Yeah, there is a 5-month waiting period. So if and we're fighting that right now, by the way, we're trying to change that. But if you're found disabled, let's say you've been out of work since January of 2022, the first time you're eligible for a benefit is actually 5 months after that. So it would be right around June of 2022 is when your retro period would start.
Even though you were hurt, they go back.
Yeah, they do something that annoys me a little bit, Brian. They assume we all have short-term disability policies, which we don't. A short-term disability policy will typically last 5 to 6 months. Not a lot of us have those. So, it's a bad assumption. It's a bad rule. We're trying to change it.
Almost trying to say that you should have it.
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah. All right, Rach, we good?
Yeah, looking good.
All right, folks, that concludes our webinar for tonight. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time out of their busy schedules to attend our workshop. I truly commend you for being the type of people that are look to better themselves through this type of information. I'd also like to thank our special co-hosts for doing this, and as well, Joe Dock from the Executive Director of Injured Workers Advocacy Program and the PhillyLabor.com and the host of the Labor Show on 1210 a.m. Thanks for being part of this and put your time into it, Joe.
My pleasure. I hope everybody learned a lot.
And before we go, how can people get in touch with you, and what's the best way that you find for people to reach out?
You're talking, Tom?
No, you, Joe.
On you can go to PhillyLabor.com, or my cell phone's on the screen, 267-250-1375.
Okay, and I also want to thank Tom Giordano, expert Social Security disability attorney from Philadelphia's esteemed Social Security disability and workers' compensation law firm, Lehocky. Thanks for being with us tonight, Tom.
Hey, Brian, it's my pleasure. Thank you for setting this up. I feel like I'm an honorary Dougherty tonight, so I appreciate it, man. I'm here for you guys whenever you need me.
How can people get in touch with you if they need you, Tom?
You can call me, the number above, 877-957-0699. You can go on our website. You can email me personally at tgiordano@ponlehocky.com.
Awesome. I also want to thank my wonderful partner in business and life, Rachel Dougherty. Thank you, Rachel.
You're very welcome.
And again, folks, my name is Brian Dougherty of PLC Financial Solutions and PhillyLabor.com. PLC is located in the Fort Washington area, and you can get in touch with me if you have any questions related to our topic today or any really thing else at all by calling 215-804-9708, or you can go to our website at plcfs.com and email me or schedule a complimentary Q&A meeting. All on the website. You can access all that. And I'd be happy to discuss whatever really you want to talk about. Also, folks, I hope to see you on our webinar. We have another one next Tuesday, January 25th, 2022. You can actually see it from our website at 7 p.m., not 6. We do them, though, on the last Tuesday of every month at 7 p.m. Our topic next week is understanding advanced retirement planning. So have a great night, and we'll see you next week or next month on our webinar. See you, folks.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All
Rachel.
right, guys. Thank you.
All right, our pleasure.